One of my favorite things to do in the beginning of our class is to do a process called the cyanotype. It's one of the few old photographic processes that's a non-silver process. So most photographic processes use silver as the light sensitive material. And because of that, usually you have to do things in dark rooms. Like if you've ever seen movies where they've done photography, it's in like a red light sort of a situation. And cyanotype's one of the few where it really is only sensitive to ultraviolet light. So we've got a lot of flexibility, and it only uses two chemicals, potassium ferrocyanide and ammonium citrate, ferric ammonium citrate. So it's an easy one to kind of do. And so we usually will do it inside of class. And, it's a pretty minimal setup, and it just washes with water. But because everybody's at their own houses this time, we're going to have to do things a little bit differently. So I still want to give us the basic idea of cyanotype. I'd still like you to watch the video so you can kind of see how that process works. But then what we're going to be doing is actually creating our cyanotypes in a slightly different way. We're going to be actually going into an application called Snapseed and use that as a way of converting our images to black and white, inverting them so that they're black and white, but opposite, and then also applying some color through the use of curves so that it can give us the effect of the cyanotype. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is go to your app store and download Snapseed. Snapseed's something that we'll use quite a bit as we go through the class, so just a good time to go ahead and get that out of the way. And then once you've got that downloaded, then watch the next video, which will go through how to actually create the cyanotype. But before we can convert them into cyanotypes, we've got to first talk about doing the shooting. So let's talk a little bit about how we're going to do the shooting for our cyanotypes. It's actually going to be twofold. So there's two parts to the assignment. The first part is we're going to take the sketch note, the planning page that you created about your person in the history of photography and that birth of photography part. And we're going to take that and we're going to go ahead and take a picture of that and convert that into a cyanotype. Normally what we would have done in class is make that into with a piece of tracing paper, and we'd be printing it as like a blueprint, because cyanotype was used as blueprints for like architectural drawings and schematics and those sort of things. So that's one part to it. But then also cyanotype was actually the first photographic process used to create like a photographic book. There was this lady, Anna Atkins, and she created all of these basically sun prints of cyanotypes utilizing plant forms. So she would actually go out and find algae and other sorts of plants and place them directly on top of the paper, expose it to sunlight, and what you would get is a really sharp outline to describe what those different types of algae were. And prior to that, scientists, they would have to actually go out and draw what they saw. And, it might be somewhat accurate, but it may be lacking in some of the details. And this was a much more precise way to do that. And so she would use that cyanotype process. So what we'll be doing is doing kind of a similar sort of thing. We'll go out, we'll find some plants, take some pictures of them, and then I'll walk you through the steps of how to convert it. So let's go take a quick look. So I went ahead and went outside and collected some plant life. I just took a quick look around and grabbed a few different samples. And basically what we're going to do is I've just got a whiteboard here. This could just be also just a plain white piece of paper, depending on the size and scale of some of your things. I think I like this one because I think it's going to have some texture, and it'll have more of an effect like when we hand coat the emulsion, but it doesn't need to be something like this. It could just be a white piece of paper. And then I'm just going to place one of my found leaves on here, and once I get it in place, then I'll go ahead and take a picture. And so I'm able to shoot video and pictures at the same time, so I'm just going to take a few snapshots. And so that should work okay. You might want to check your composition and your lighting. Right now my light's kind of coming from the top back left, which is giving a little bit of shadow to it, which is kind of nice. But one thing that would work really well is probably just like going into the shade. So either, kind of window light if you sit next to your window, or if you think of maybe, going outside really quick and finding an open area of shade, that might work well as well. So let's see if we can get these to kind of open up and press down a little bit. Normally, if you were doing the cyanotype, what would happen is this would all get kind of pressed flat from the glass, right? We would put glass on top of it and that would kind of hold it in place. But since we don't have that, while this is folding over, I'm going to shoot a few pictures. There we go. And then let's see, let me try this one. This way we just have a little bit of variety of things to try. we go. And then I collected this one earlier. And if you do want to have, you know, a plain white background, so it's just on a white piece of paper, that can work too. We can always crop it down. I don't know what our framing is going to be like exactly, but we could try that. Also try it without. Try the other side as well. All right, so now, oh, let's see, I think I've got one other thing. Maybe I could try. See how this looks. So I collect these sometimes when we're traveling during the summer. Like old, it's kind of like a seaweed fan, palm sort of a thing. So we'll try that too. All right, so there's our shooting. And then what we'll do is now let's go ahead and jump into the snapseed part.